and welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, PrecisionHydration.com.
Precision Hydration offer electrolyte drinks in different strengths to match how you sweat. Personalise your hydration strategy today at precisionhydration.com and get a free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code Oxygenaddict.
And you can also use the code OxygenFriday. That's good for 20% off everything on precisionhydration.com. It's their Black Friday sale, so the code expires at the end of Cyber Monday, which is today as we release the podcast, the 26th of November. So if you're quick and you've downloaded it on day one, you can still use the code OxygenFriday. We're also brought to you by TeamOxygenaddict.com Triathlon Coaching.
Official coaching partner to the Outlaw Series, training plans, coaching support from Rob Wilby, monthly video coaching calls, and a private Facebook group for you and your teammates.
And remember, you can join our free Oxygenaddict Triathlon community Facebook page. Just search for that on Facebook, and we've got 1,100 plus members now, Hells, in there, chatting triathlon. So if you want to talk to your buddies who listen to the show, that's the place to go and have a listen. And I noticed you were in there today asking for questions for an interview you've got coming up, weren't you?
Yes, I did put a little question in there to see if anyone had any questions themselves.
Jolly good. So get in there into the Facebook group and check that out, and you can pop your question in it was for Leslie Patterson, wasn't it? Ex-Terra World Champion.
Yeah, but you might miss it by the time that
by the
time you're listening to this, you'll probably miss it, so don't worry.
How quickly I can get this edited and posted, hey? And we're also promoted by fueledbycake.com.
The ideal Christmas present for the baker or the triathlete in your life. That could be you. It's a charity recipe book. Head to fueledbycake.com.
Awesome stuff. Right, so welcome to the show. Hi, everybody, and hello, Hells. It seems like only a matter of hours ago since I last saw you last. Both of us wrapped up against the cold, organising and marshalling a 10K. We had fun, didn't we?
We did have fun. I know. That was because we don't see each other that often, do we? We talk.
No, it's weird, isn't it? We talk every week at least once and barely get to see each other these days in real life. So we were at the Triathlon Club annual supposedly Christmas 10K, which seems to get earlier every year.
End of November.
It was, I tell you what, it was cold getting up first thing on a Saturday morning to get down for 7:30 in the morning, wasn't it?
But it was great. I took my cowbell along, cheered everyone on.
Did you have your cowbell? That's brilliant.
Yeah, I had a cowbell. I was on the corner of
Cowbell
confusion.
corner.
Corner of confusion, cowbell corner. Jingling away and cheering everyone on. And it's so funny watching a 10K because everyone, no matter how fast they actually are, everyone just looks really slow when you're standing there.
Yeah, it is a lesser known fact, isn't it, about when you actually watch runners go by. You always feel a lot faster than you actually look.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, everybody. I mean, you all look amazing, but at the same time, yeah, you just think, oh yeah, they're all just jogging by. But they're clearly not.
No, they didn't look like that as they passed me at the finish line, Hells, that's for sure. After the 1 mile uphill finish, God bless them.
If you've never been to Tatton Park, which we were very lucky to have on our doorstep, the sort of the route that we use for this Club 10K takes you downhill essentially for the first half, and then you have to go uphill for the second half. But it's like 3 sort of fake summits, isn't it? And you think, yeah, I'm nearly there.
Oh no,
and then oh god, this blinking road just carries on. Okay, I can see the top of it. And then, oh no, it goes down again. And then at the final summit, then you're pretty much there, but it's not good fun.
Oh, it's all great, isn't it? It's and it was a beautiful morning as well. Sun came up through the trees. It was a pretty special morning, so very happy with that. And then a bit of club Christmas party on the Saturday evening, where I got to see you across the distant room again and say hi for about 10 seconds.
I know, it was good. It was the first Christmas do I think I've ever had in November.
Yeah, it's all good. I was exhausted because I've been out late the night before. Hells, I've got to tell you, if you've not seen this yet, the Queen movie that's out, Bohemian Rhapsody, is absolutely brilliant. I don't care what any of the critics say, because every review I read panned it. It was just brilliant. People were actually standing up singing in the aisles at the end of it. It was just such good fun.
Sounds a bit like Mamma Mia.
Oh, well, yeah, but with better music. And it made me cry. It made me properly cry. It's
Definitely sounds like Mamma Mia.
Such a good movie. Yeah. Maybe I'm emotional because it's Christmas in November.
No, you should go and watch Mamma Mia and see if you have the same similar effect on you.
You know,
the tears,
having
people standing up dancing.
Yeah, it's not going to do it for me. No. But if you like a bit of the old rock music, can't beat a bit of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay, I'll take that as a tip.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You don't sound convinced. Rich wants to go. I'll warn you now. I told him about it, so maybe I'll go with him. Save you the hassle.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that one.
Not going to happen. I can tell in your voice.
I'm just thinking. It'd be like if I said to him, "Come to Mamma Mia," he would tell me where to go.
Or maybe we organise a double night out, right? Some of us go to the Queen movie, some of us go to Mamma Mia. How about that? Everyone's a winner.
Everyone's a winner. Yeah. No, I Queen are great. It would actually be quite good to go and see it.
I'm telling you, it's a great movie.
Yeah. No, I would be happy to go and do that. I've said it.
Right. Do you know, we should probably talk about some more triathlon stuff rather than rock music, shouldn't we? Should we do some results?
Yes.
All right, so first up, results sponsored by Precision Hydration. Now, we gave this a shout out as we started on today. If you're really quick, you might still be able to get the code Oxygen Friday to work. It's good for 20% off all products on precisionhydration.com until the end of Cyber Monday, which is right now as we're recording, Monday the 26th of November. If not, you can go back and use the old Oxygenaddict code, which is just Oxygenaddict, which should get you £9.99 worth of free precision hydration. And so get yourself sorted out with your electrolyte salts for the upcoming winter. If you're anything like me and you're trying to get into a bit of swimming through the winter again because it's got freezing cold outside and you're suffering from those cramps in the calves, every time it happens to me, Hells, a bit of a drink with pH in seems to sort it out for next time. So if I could just remember to keep on it as a habit, I'd have much less cramp in the calves, I tell you. I don't know what's wrong with me. Andy, that I swim with, he has a sachet in his bag. He has hat, goggles, sachet, water bottle, swimming trunks. And every time I think, damn it, I forgot to bring a sachet with me again.
I don't think that's such a good idea, but I've not done it.
He just has it in his bag all the time.
Just go, like, as soon as we've finished recording,
go and get your swim bag.
Yeah.
That's exactly
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? I mean, what a genius idea.
To actually have it there. That's the way to go. All right, so some results from around the world. Some places where they're going to need some precision hydration in their water bottle right now is down in Sydney, where they're in the midst of their summer. And we had 70.3 Sydney go on, and a pretty spectacular comeback story for our friend Terenzo Bozzoni.
Yeah, so he got... He was sort of one of the favourites, wasn't he, Rob, for Kona? Yeah. But then he got hit by a truck when he was out on a training ride in a hit and run, and he ended up with like a fractured cheekbone and really horrible like head and facial injuries, concussion. And he didn't actually make it to Kona in the end, did he? He sort of said, "I'm getting back into training, but I'm not where I need to be." So yeah, what a brilliant comeback for him, and the finish line photo is great. He's got his tongue stuck out, grinning madly, and yeah, he had a really good win there over Sam Appleton. So about sort of 2-minute win. He did a 1:15.29 run that was the second fastest run of the day. He had a 2:01.09 bike, and he had a 24:56 swim to take the win.
It's great to see him back racing so well as well. And what's interesting is, I think the last time I heard an update, he didn't actually know what had hit him. At the time, that it was like a hit and run, so they must have found out what's gone on, because it says on the Slow Twitch report he was hit by a logging truck. So that's going to be good news in itself, hasn't it? That hopefully they've got to the bottom of what's happened and hopefully caught the person responsible.
I'd hope so, wouldn't you?
We'll have to get him back on. We'll have to chase him for an interview and see where he's up to now that he's back racing again. So that was the men's results. Terenzo wins it from Sam Appleton and Casey Munro. Over on the ladies' side, it was a win for Radhika Karlfeldt.
Yeah, now, Rob, she had a baby fairly recently, But she's had the most amazing season this year.
Yeah.
So it was another win for her. I think her fourth of the season, I want to say, 70.3.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She was fifth at the World Championships in South Africa. So she's had a really, really pretty amazing, inspirational year, I'd say. So yeah, she took the win in 4:12 ahead of Hannah Wells of New Zealand and then Grace Feck of Australia.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore to come back after having a daughter and race so well so quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, but and not just like the one-off. Like she's had a really pretty consistent year as well, I think.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, now then, from the sublime to the ridiculous, we're going to go from 70.3 racing to the Ultraman World Championships. What's the Ultraman World Championships? I hear you shout, Helen.
The Ultraman World Championships, Rob, is 3 days of very long racing with a double marathon on the third day.
Bonkers, isn't it? So all round the big island of Hawaii, kicks off with, I believe, a 10k swim, followed by a 90-mile bike. Day 2 is a 170-mile bike ride, and day 3 is a 52.4-mile double marathon through the lava fields of Kona, all the way back down into Kona itself. So not exactly less than challenging conditions either.
No. Every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing. And then I sort of have a moment of, no, that's actually ridiculous. Yeah, really, really crazy, especially in those conditions as well. In fact, anywhere. I mean, God, put it in northern Scotland, put it in Snowdonia, put it in the Swiss Alps, put it anywhere, it would be really tough.
Yeah. And we've got an interview actually with Rob Gray on episode 156. So you'll have to go back and have a listen to that. Rob Gray was the defending champion who ended up coming in second this year, didn't he?
Yeah. So, he was second in a nice little 2:44 swim to begin with. Blimey.
Let's have a look at the results here first up on the ladies' side. Tara Norton takes the win. So day 1, she was out there exercising for 8 hours 16. Day 2, she was out for 10 hours 30. And day 3, she closed with a 9 hour 34 double marathon through the lava fields. So hats off to you. Mary Knott in second and Cynthia Bartas in third. And then over on the men's side, the times get even more bonkers, don't they?
Yes. They're just insane. They're literally insane. So Richard Thompson, who got the win, did a 6:56 total marathon running.
6:56. So let's do the maths on that. That's 2 sub 3:30 marathons back to back, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a double marathon in the heat and the lava fields.
After having spent a day on a bike and after having spent a day swimming and on a bike.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really mad. Yeah, really, really mad.
Okay.
So total time for Richard Thompson over the 3 days was 22 hours and 9 minutes. Rob Gray's total time was 23 hours and 6 minutes. And then Petr Vabrasek of the Czech Republic was 23 hours and 32 minutes.
It's not a huge amount in it, is there? Right at the end, It comes down to less than half an hour. I just think that's brilliant. I'd love to see some video of that race and see like a well-produced film about the guys and girls racing each other. It'd be brilliant.
It would have to be very, very well produced because 22 hours of TV would be quite
yeah, not in real time.
No, exactly. You need a good edit. But what I think is interesting is that the age of a lot of these competitors. So Richard Thompson's actually the youngest, but the guy that came fifth, Mira Kreger of Slovenia, 56 years old, with a 6:51 final double marathon day.
Wow.
At the age of 56.
Yeah. Is that the fastest overall run?
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, and if people listening in the UK have got a bit of a taste for that, then if you remember a couple of episodes ago, we had an email from a couple of guys who are organising UK, the Ultraman distance race in the UK next year. If you want to find out more about that, it's racingquest.co.uk.
Nice. Rob, the woman who won, Tara Norton, she's 47.
It's pretty inspirational, isn't it?
Just putting it out there. She's 47. Yeah.
Who knows, Hells? Maybe you'll find yourself doing that in 10 years' time.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, brilliant. All right, so listen, let's have a little chat about this week's interview of the week, which I'm pretty excited about, actually. We've got an interview with a chap called Simon Wegerif, who is one of the world's leading experts on heart rate variability. So I saw Simon talk at the Endurance Coaching Summit in Manchester a few weeks ago, and I think HRV is, everyone's aware of it to some lesser or greater degree. I think a lot of the more modern heart rate monitors and Garmin's and things have got HRV monitors built into them. So it's becoming on my radar more and more as my athletes start monitoring this, and it's one of the metrics that pops up. And I thought, I need to know more about this. Let's go to the source. Let's find out all we can about HRV, because it's obviously something that is going to be, if not the next big thing, that's something that's very useful to athletes. I didn't quite understand quite how useful I was going to think it was going to be. So we'll run this interview with Simon, and then we'll have a chat about this afterwards. So here we go. It's Simon Wegerif talking about heart rate variability. So Simon, thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me on, Rob. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much, from the slightly sunny but somewhat cold south of England.
Well, I'm really excited to get you on because I saw you speak at the TrainingPeaks conference, and there's a lot of interesting information out there about HRV, and my mind was boggled with the amount of information we've got available to help us on a day-by-day basis. So I thought, what better than to go to the source, get you interviewed, and find out how it can help us all as athletes in a real-world situation. So first up, kick us off with a quick overview of what HRV actually is and how it can help us.
Yeah, so HRV stands for heart rate variability, and that's different from heart rate itself. When we measure heart rate, we're usually looking at a short-term average figure. So when somebody's resting, their heart rate might be 55 or 60, and when they're exercising, at a reasonable intensity, it might be 150 or 160. Heart rate variability is different in that it measures precisely the time gap between every beat of the heart. And this turns out to be a very handy measurement of how much stress your body is currently under, because by looking at the variation in that time gap, when you breathe in and when you breathe out, you can tell quite a bit about how recovered and stressed you are, and therefore how hard you can train on a particular day.
Well, I find this really interesting because for years I coach all my athletes with TrainingPeaks, and so within that software there's this great ability to sort of track how tired you're making an athlete, how fit they're getting, the difference, the form for race day, all that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting on the one hand because, it provides a nice chart to show hopefully the numbers going in the right direction with the training stress that you're giving to an athlete. But over time, as a coach, you come to realize that the training stress that you're putting on an athlete is actually only one very small part of the actual overall life stress that somebody might be going through. So for years, we've been scratching our head to sort of say, well, we've done the training part, but you can't account for when something goes wrong at work, if the kids have been awake all night, if somebody's been sick in the house and you've not got any sleep, all this overall stress that takes place on us, I think I'm convinced is even more important than the actual training stress that an athlete can put themselves under. So it sounds like that maybe HRV is that missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so HRV is a very good indicator for what's now being quite widely known as total load. So total load is a term that's been around for a little while, but it's been particularly adopted by the International Olympic Committee in looking at all the different sources of stress on elite athletes in the Olympic preparation case. But of course, the amount of stress that recreational and age group athletes are under is even greater because the vast majority of them are doing their regular jobs. They've got a family situation. There's an awful lot of things going on in their lives. And indeed, for pretty much everybody in that category, training is not the biggest source of stress in their lives. And HRV, being a holistic indicator of stress, is a very good way to help you identify not only what the total amount of stress you're under at a particular time is, and of course that changes from day to day, but also what the relative contributions of things like poor sleep or a poor diet or the way that you manage some of the other stresses in your life.
Yeah, well, it's particularly interesting for me. I heard an interview just the other day with an athlete who was really into HRV tracking, and it's something that's, I'll be honest, it's only ever been tangentially on my radar pretty much up until I saw you speak, and then I heard this interview just a couple of days later and thought, sometimes the universe gives you a signal that you need to pay more attention to something. And he was sort of saying he'd been out and trained. This was a very good athlete going to Kona, and he got sort of the signals from his HRV that he needed to take the day off today. He ignored those signals and went out and did his session and ended up actually with a stress fracture. And I'm sure he's tying his story up to make it a bit neater, but it was a real eye-opener for me to sort of say, well, this technology is obviously at the point where it can direct us at the very least to the days where perhaps we should be having an easier day rather than hitting the interval session really hard. So what I was wondering was, can you talk us through on a day-by-day basis what an athlete's experience would be if they start tracking HRV? How would they do it, and sort of what kind of numbers would they get out of it, and how will that guide them as to whether they should or shouldn't train?
Yeah, sure. So for the vast majority of endurance athletes, they'll be training anywhere between 4 and 7 times a week. And certainly the protocol that we started adopting back in 2009 when we first released the iThlete app is to recommend that people do a 1-minute HRV test as soon as they wake up in the morning. The advantage of doing it first thing in the morning is that you've got the immediate impact of sleep, so you're not taking it part way through the night. The sleep recovery phase is complete. And you haven't started stressing your body with anything else yet that day. So you haven't drunk caffeinated drinks. You haven't seen that somebody's been rude about you on social media, all the other things that kind of mess us up a little bit from day to day. So you do your HRV first thing in the morning. And unlike resting heart rate, a higher number is actually better. So a greater variability indicates a biological system which is more able to respond to a dynamic situation. So HRV is typically, well, in iThlete at least, measured on something like a 1 to 100 scale, with good endurance athletes will be in the range 80 to 100. And in fact, we did a little, we responded to one of Dr. Stephen Seiler's tweets a few days ago with the distribution amongst endurance athletes. So you might want to take a look at that. But typically the number will be in the range 80 to 100. You take it every day. And after about 4 or 5 days, the app or the software will start to create what's known as a baseline. And a baseline is really just a moving average of your daily scores. But the importance of the baseline is that every day when you wake up, the number that you get on that particular day will be compared to the baseline. If it's at the baseline level or higher than the baseline, then that's great. That means you've got physiological reserves and capacity to do training. You've got room for stress, in other words, during that day.
Got you.
On the other hand, if the HRV is moderately below your baseline, then on the first day that happens, that's probably an indication that you're not fully recovered. Doesn't necessarily mean you should alter your training plans, but it is perhaps a signal that you're not fully recovered. And you might want to do something like, if you can, get a 20-minute nap in at lunchtime, modify your diet a little bit, try and do something to reduce the total load, or go to bed a little bit earlier. If, on the other hand, you have a couple of days of reduced HRV, then that starts to become a warning that you're overloading the system and that you need to back off somewhere.
Got you. All right, then. So higher HRV, higher variability between our heartbeats is a sign that our system's ready to respond really quickly. And if we hammer ourselves with training, basically the heartbeat gets more regular. That's its response. It ends up being the spaces are much more. What's the lowest that number can get down to in terms of of what the lowest number you might see might be?
Yeah, well, practically speaking, so we exhibited at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and we probably tested 250 people who came by our booth in a couple of days. The lowest number we got then was actually, I think it was 37 or so on this scale, and that was a very overweight diabetic journalist who had an immediate reaction to the low number and started apologizing for his lifestyle. So he knew there was something up with that number.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, we've had similar numbers to that from a couple of good friends who are capable cyclists. And in fact, on the morning when each of them subsequently came down with swine flu, they had very low numbers as well, below 40. So anything below 40 is really not a good number on this scale and can potentially indicate, quite a serious acute or chronic illness situation.
Got you. And I'm presuming it'll be slightly different for every individual. So you get your own kind of baseline, and then over time you get to track, okay, this is a sign I'm ready to really hit the big sessions hard, and this is a sign I maybe need to back off. I'm really interested in this idea that it might be useful, as much as it's like a Back to the Future kind of idea. It might be useful in predicting that you might be about to get sick, because one of the questions I get a huge amount from my athletes as a coach is, I don't know whether this morning I'm waking up and I just am being soft and I should just, pull the big boy pants on and get out training anyway, or whether I'm completely wrecked and, I certainly don't feel like training. But by its very nature, long distance triathlon attracts people who are good at making themselves do stuff they don't really want to do. So this sounds like it'd be really effective at backing up. It's another metric, isn't it, to look at?
Yes, it absolutely is. And I bring to mind a quote from Liz Yelling a few years ago, who was an early user of iThlete, who says, it confirms my feeling and gives me confidence in planning my training for that day. So it is quite an insightful measure. A lot of the time it should agree with what your body is telling you. There's nothing wrong with that. Occasionally it will disagree with what your body is telling you. And in many of those situations, it is an early warning sign of something going wrong.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So for me, this is a really great thing to be able to have another metric to track and sort of compare against an athlete's note saying, I'm starting to feel really tired. And that's a sort of scientific backup that the body does need a bit extra recovery. And let's be honest, with most of the athletes that we work with, they very rarely need to be told to go out and train harder. The real value that we can add is to say to them, let's back off a little bit today so that we can go again.
Yeah, although it can certainly be used in the go harder mode as well. So we have a particular graphic in iThlete Pro that we call the training guide. And over to the right-hand side of the training guide, if you get a point there, then your HRV is above normal, and your resting heart rate is in a good zone as well. And we do actually recommend those days to be the best ones for doing your HIT sessions, because you will feel better and be able to give it more on those days, most likely.
So it's a good indicator that might be a magic legs day, as we call them, where you just a little bit extra than usual.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you've mentioned already this idea that if we're going to do this, we need to do it every day. We're going to do it the first thing we do. We're going to track our HRV every morning when we wake up. The test, am I right, involves basically just sitting still for a minute and letting the app do its business and just monitor your heart rate over a minute.
Yeah, it's that's the basic idea. There's slightly more to it than that. You mentioned sitting. So sitting is a good starting position for a lot of people. But for those endurance athletes who have quite low resting heart rates, so like 50 or below, we really recommend standing. And the reason for that is it's an effect called parasympathetic saturation, which basically means that when the athlete is at rest, the brakes to their heart rate are fully on and you don't actually see much change in variability from day to day. So we recommend they stand up in order actually to put a little bit of stress on their system and basically get their heart rate off the end stops. The other important aspect is that, yes, it's about a 1 minute measure. The way we got down to a 1 minute measure with acceptable, what they call repeatability, was to make it a paced breathing exercise. And that means we encourage people to breathe in and out, in through the nose, out through the mouth, following a breathing pacer. And that's turned out actually to be quite important in the overall mechanics of how the HRV works, because as I think I mentioned earlier, the heartbeat intervals actually change when you breathe in and when you breathe out. So controlling the amount and speed at which you're breathing in and out has a big influence on how that occurs. So a good scientific practice certainly is to standardize that aspect. Then you get better repeatability.
Got you. Okay. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times, obviously, you're one of the, if not the foremost pioneer of HRV in the world, and you were certainly first to market with some app and hardware that's going to help measure this. And HRV is becoming more widely known because nowadays it's available in several wrist-based heart monitors and commercially available stuff. So you've mentioned iThlete, which is your app. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us about I guess from my point of view, I need to know if the numbers I'm getting out of it are going to be useful. How important is it to use what kind of equipment to measure it, essentially?
Yeah, sure. So I first had the idea from this after I read an article in a sports science news digest called Peak Performance back in 2007, I think it was.
the old flyer that used to come. Yeah, I remember it well.
The red and white flyer.
That's right. Indeed.
Yeah. So I read an article in there which talked about quite a complex procedure, and it was written by a coach called Eddie Fletcher, who coaches triathletes and indoor rowers.
Yep.
And I became immediately interested in this. I followed up the references, went to meet Eddie at his house in Gloucestershire, and had a very long conversation with him. I then got in touch with some researchers at the University of Essex, particularly Dr. Gavin Sandercock, who'd done his PhD around heart rate variability. And pretty soon I was starting to get together my ideas to create an app from that. And we always wanted it to be, because my background is in consumer electronics, I always wanted it to be easy to use and convenient. Otherwise, people weren't going to do it every day. So it had to be short and it had to be easy to do. But it also had to be scientifically valid, because I had the idea at the beginning that we wanted it to be used in medical contexts as well as athletic ones. And it took a few years for that to happen, but that is happening now. The thing is that, as with any data processing system, it's garbage in, garbage out. So you do need a good sensor signal. When we first started doing this, we developed a little plug-in for the iPhone, which then worked with the Polar straps, which were available at the time, the kinds that work with the gym machines.
Yep.
And we still have that plug-in. We don't sell many of them nowadays. Then we moved on to Bluetooth straps, but it soon became apparent that putting a chest strap on every morning, whilst it works perhaps for the more dedicated endurance crowd, a lot of people don't find that very convenient, or perhaps there's some, there's not a great deal of tolerance to having a horrible chest strap resting on the bedside table.
No,
so
it's not the ideal thing to do first thing in the morning, is it?
So I set about designing a finger sensor, which was based on the kind that you see in casualty and all the sort of and hospital programs, which has the red light shining through the fingertip. But we designed a consumer-friendly version of that, but still having it, as valid as the hospital version. So it's been validated initially, I think, by the University of Sydney, University of Alabama, University of Essex, and other places around the world. And so, as I said, really, the combination of doing things the right way every morning with a good sensor is really an important one, because this is a sensitive measure and it's fairly easy to mess up. And people who have bad experiences with HRV tend not to have paid attention to all the necessary aspects.
Got you. So super important that you've got the right equipment to measure it, because I'm guessing this is going to come down to milliseconds worth of variation. That's okay. So a wrist-based thing built into your standard GPS running watch isn't going to cut the mustard in terms of picking up the level of detail that's needed for this.
No, not really. Those ones, they tend to work okay, although not brilliantly, for exercise heart rate, for the reason that I mentioned earlier, in that you normally take an average of about 7 heartbeats or so into account for the heart rate readout that you get during exercise, but it's not accurate enough.
Okay.
At least not without a great deal of care. And that great deal of care would be remaining completely motionless and probably being in a warm environment as well, so you had sufficient blood flow to the surface skin.
Okay.
But the reality remains that the back of the wrist is just not a great place to measure your pulse. You don't see that done in hospitals or anywhere else.
Got you. Okay. So your app, iThlete, you can get this add-on finger sensor that you you plug on and it just goes into your smartphone and it all does that thing there. That sounds really interesting. In terms of like the commercial availability of this, how much are people looking at paying for the finger sensor and the app and all that stuff?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get started is just to buy the mobile app, and that's I think it's £7 at the moment on the App Store or on Google Play. Okay. If you've got a good a Bluetooth strap, chest strap that's in good condition, then you can use that. So something like a Wahoo Ticker or a Cardio Sport or a Polar H7 H9, something like that. Those will work fine so long as the strap's in good condition. So you can get started for as little as £7. But the finger sensor is £45, and a lot of people do decide that, you know, if they're going to use HRV for any length of time, that it's worth the worth the investment to have something that's convenient and you know, available as soon as they get out of bed. Yeah,
no brainer really, for the fact if you're going to use it to monitor a whole year's worth of training, it works out at, you know, less than £1 a week, I suppose, doesn't it? Yeah. And what about people at as you mentioned earlier, this has been used with the IOC. Athletes that you've known who have used this and who have managed to have success tracking their HRV, who are some examples of that?
Yeah, so I actually presented a couple of examples of elite cyclists at the TrainingPeaks event. So Caleb Ewan, the up and coming Aussie sprinter, was one of those, and Matt Heyman, the guy who won Paris-Roubaix a couple of years ago. Yeah. And Matt was a particularly interesting example of data because he's now 40, although he's still competing at World Tour level, and he has young kids as well. And the data we showed had a couple of periods of sickness. Normally in a period where you would be quite worried about his ability to compete. But in fact, by using HRV to back his training load off so that he could cope with the stress of fighting the illness within his total load headroom, he recovered very quickly from 2 bouts of illness and then went on to an altitude camp and did quite well in the Tour of California. So it does work with elite athletes as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And you were telling me before, was it Andy Lewis, the para triathlete gold medalist from Rio, has also done studies with this?
Yeah, so he's been using iThlete for a while as well in order to, improve his understanding of how his body tolerates high training loads and recovery. And like everybody, you know, we all get a little bit sick, especially at times of year like this. But endurance athletes tend to be type A personalities and they carry on anyways. But knowing not only that you are getting sick, but also when the worst of it is over is very valuable information from HRV. Because a typical course of a cold is 2 weeks, you know, before the last sniffles recede. But the worst of it is over in typically 3, 4, 5 days or so. And the HRV will help you identify when you're starting to recover and can start putting a little bit of the training back in.
Well, that's what's really interesting to me, actually, is this idea that the HRV score will lead ahead of how you feel. So it'll give you an indication that you're starting to get sick or that you're overreached or possibly overtrained before you feel it. But also on the back end of an illness, when you're starting to come back, that's a classic question from athletes. When should I do my first session? What should it be? When should I do the first hard session after I've got back? What will athletes typically see then in their HRV numbers in terms of, you know, your example of coming back from a cold? Does the HRV start to creep back up almost before they start to feel better?
Yeah, so their HRV will normally creep up well before the 2 weeks of the cold, you know, the virus working its way fully through. Yeah. So typically, you would notice one morning that your HRV is dipped by, let's say, 7 to 10 points, something like that, and you might get an amber or even a red warning. And then after 3 or 4 days, it depends on your level, really, because in the case of Matt Heyman, you know, it was only 2 to 3 days before it starts coming back up. So it depends a little bit on your overall resilience. And part of that is, you know, through years of aerobic training, part of that is genetic. So, you know, it depends on your resilience. But typically for, you know, enthusiastic age group athletes, I would say probably 4 to 5 days before you definitely notice it coming back close to the baseline again.
Yeah, and I guess the important thing is that regardless of how long the actual time is, that score is going to give you a guide to either, yes, it's starting to come back up, showing you're starting to get better, or more importantly, no, it isn't starting to come back up yet, indicating that there is that overall stress and load on your system still that you're just going to make things worse by training on top of.
Yeah, and another scenario is that it comes back to close to baseline quite quickly. Then you do what you regarded as a moderate session to try things out, and it goes back down again. And then you know you're not quite ready, and you need to give it a bit longer.
Yeah. Well, this is great. It sounds like there's some technology here that's kind of backed up, or will back up what a good coach will say to athletes, which is basically, go out and give it a try, but not too much. And then we have to check in on how you feel. It's just an extra bit of information to help people sort of say, no, I'm not being soft. I'm trying to push myself to come back too soon. Because that's almost always the case. It's almost always, I felt like I felt okay and I went out and then I was off work for another 2 days. Yeah.
No, it is pretty good in that respect, and I've been using it every day for 10 years now. And in the early days, I did try to do fast group rides when I was on a red, actually, from being a bit unwell, and both times I really regretted it.
Yeah.
So we use in iThlete, we use reds very sparingly, because particularly at the elite end, the coaches don't want a piece of technology telling their athletes not to train. So we actually, for a red, it has to be not only the HRV has to be significantly below baseline, but the resting heart rate has to be elevated as well.
Got you. So you're really saying, look, you've got to really take notice of this at this point. When the red comes up, it's really a red light to stop. Yeah.
It does mean it, yes. Yeah.
Great stuff. Right. Well, listen, if people are interested in iThlete, the app, and the technology that goes along with it, where can they go to find out more about it?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, which is myithlete.com. That's myithlete.com, or just Google iThlete, ITHLETE. That'll take you there. What I would like to point out to everybody, though, is that we've invested quite a bit of time in summarizing research and writing articles, and those are all available on the blog. So it's worth a browse of the blog. Don't just look at the latest entry, but do a browse. And there's articles on pretty much everything in HRV in there, from diet to sleep to stress management to adaptation as well, which is something we haven't really had time to touch on today. HRV can be a good predictor of adaptation for the future. So, there's a lot in there, and we hope that those resources are useful.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had a good look over the site, and there's some really good information on there. So it does a great job of sort of educating us all as to why we should start paying more attention to this.
Thank you.
Great. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time. We've learned tons by listening to you. And if people, again, if they want to go and check out more, it's myathlete.com.
myithlete.com, yes. myithlete.
With an I. Well, what I'll do is I'll make sure I stick a link in the show notes and people can click through and have a look from there.
Perfect. We also have a special coaches landing page as well, so they can get some benefits and look over their data, their athletes' data as well.
Oh, great stuff. Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much again for your time, and we hope to speak to you again soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rob. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Okay, Hells. I'm really into this idea of having a metric to track wherever we can, if it's accurate and it's going to help people. And the idea that, we've talked for years, haven't we, about how training stress and TSS scores are really good, but they're only one measure of the actual overall stress that goes on in an athlete's life. And I'm thinking that HRV might be, if not that missing piece of the puzzle, certainly a missing piece of the puzzle, and will really help athletes get more in tune with, firstly, am I recovered enough to do the hard sessions, but also what's the effect that all the other stuff that's going on in my life has actually on the training itself.
And it's a really, really interesting area, because it's so easy, isn't it, to when you've got like a training plan or something like that, and you sort of say, I'm really, really, really tired. It's because I did, that really hard bike session last night.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, actually, it's probably not just because of that bike session that you did last night. It's because of everything else going on. It's because of what's happening at work. It's because of what's happening at home. It's because you might not have had great sleep. What's your diet been like? There's so much stuff. And actually having something to measure, or at least not even measure, but show
It's a bit of validation, isn't it, really?
Exactly. Take it into account, because it's so easy to write that off.
Yeah. I think that there can't be a person listening who hasn't woken up in the morning feeling really tired and not sure whether they're being a wuss or whether they're about to get sick. It's almost like a constant daily worry when you're really in the depths of, high volume training especially. You're almost always feeling tired. And part of the thing that drives most of the people listening is they're going to get stuff done regardless. And if we've got a tool here that's at least going to help people make some smarter decisions around, I'm often saying, the coach's job is often to say to people no, rather than to encourage and motivate people. So if there's another metric here that's going to give us a little flag to say, this is a good day to back off, or this is a really good day to really hit it hard, that's got to be a good thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It just it's all the little bits, isn't it, that can actually come together to help improve that performance.
Yeah, and for the sake of sitting down for a minute every morning with your heart rate strap or your finger sensor on, I think it's a no-brainer in terms of the time you can invest for potentially what could be a massive impact on your training and on your life. Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Yep.
Cool.
Nice one.
All right, let's jump over and jump into Coach's Couch, where today we're going to be talking about swimming and specifically the intelligent use of intensity within our swimming.
Yeah, because we've done biking, haven't we? We've done running.
Yeah.
So I guess it's about going hard or not going hard in swimming, Rob, and about choosing the right pace.
Yeah, well, I think I wanted to talk about intensity in swimming because it's really good to raise this with people, isn't it? Firstly, I think we've all been guilty at some point of our swim sessions being either the pace is dictated by whoever else is in your lane, or your pace is dictated simply by however fast you happen to be swimming that day. And that, you know what I'm talking about here, Hells, right? I think we've all felt that, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like even on Friday at the club swim, I was leading the lane and I would have got to the end of a particular set and, someone would have said, how are you feeling? And I felt okay. And the people who were sort of swimming at the back of the lane had been going completely full out.
Yeah. Well,
so I hadn't been, but they had been, and so there you go, exactly straight away.
You get this point where if you're in a group session, it's really hard to not have that happen, and hopefully we can talk through some strategies here to kind of mitigate that a little bit. But the first thing to make people aware of is if we're going to be intelligent about the use of intensity, first up, we have to be aware that we can actually choose how fast we can swim. And that in itself, for most people, is a light bulb moment, because I'll be honest, from my swimming, I just used to get in and look at the watch after every 100 and just constantly be chasing that thought of, why can I not go faster? And so that puts you in the mindset of every rep that you do, you're trying to get, you're not necessarily sprinting, but you're trying to get as much speed as you can out of that rep, looking at the watch and thinking, oh, that one was only 146, or that one was only 148. So it's no surprise that you get slower through the session if kind of that's your mindset from how you set off. So first, be aware you can choose your pace. And it'd be good for a lot of people listening just to get in and go, right, you know what? I'm going to choose to swim this first 100 10 seconds slower than I think I can. And just try and feel what swimming slowly feels like, because for most of us, we've never done it. It's bad enough on the bike and the run, but in the pool, it's almost unheard of that people have swum slowly. I had this great coach who used to make us do this super slow drill. And he would go, every 25 meters has got to take you it's got to take you more than a minute. And you'd go, what? More than a minute for 25 minutes?
For 25?
Yeah. And so his reason for doing it was to raise your awareness of how your body felt in the water and have you swim like literally as slowly as you could without sinking. And he was right in the sense it raises your awareness of once you take away the support the water's going to give you when you're moving fast through it, all of a sudden, if you're like me, if you're not from a swimming background, that's game over. Just trying to keep your body buoyant. So it raises that awareness of, you can choose your pace, and even swimming really, really slowly is really good for you. And then the second point here is your pace has to be relative to something. So let's make sure we've done our test. We've talked about testing and the importance of that in our early editions. So if you've done your CSS test and you know what your CSS pace is, let's say to the athlete, right, there's going to be 3 kinds of swims. There's going to be swims that are at CSS pace. They're going to be aimed at increasing your threshold pace because you're swimming at or around that CSS pace. You're also then just going to have 2 other really simple pace zones. You're going to have swims that are faster than CSS. So whether you want to call that going really hard or sprinting or whatever you like.
Or evil ones.
Evil, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As long as you've got something in there that's going faster than that, then what that's going to do is it's going to make the water feel really hard, like concrete. You've got something to pull against that's harder than usual. And that's good for your neuromuscular system, if you like. It's going to feel different in the water. And then the other pace zone you're going to have that most people will never have swum in is slower than CSS pace. And so what I'm going to say to guys listening here is, if you know what your CSS pace is, your endurance pace, just pick anywhere between 8 and 12 seconds per 100 slower than your CSS pace, which is going to sound ridiculously slow. But that's going to be a really nice equivalent of going out for an aerobic run or a ride, conversational pace, which you obviously can't do in the water. You can't chat to your mate as you're swimming. But
tried it with a kickboard.
It's not easy, is it?
No, I can never hear.
So have yourself do the endurance swim much, much slower than you would do CSS pace. So for most people, that's going to be, rule of thumb, 10 seconds slower than CSS pace. And then that opens you up to go, oh, wow, endurance pace swimming is actually, it doesn't hurt that much. It's actually quite relaxed.
I really like it.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it.
So next point is, if people are finding it really hard to choose the swimming pace, and it is really hard because we've got no real feedback as we're going, we don't really see the trees going by as we're swimming. So if you get yourself one of those Finnish tempo trainers, you can set those to beep every length. You can set those to beep for stroke rate. It's another piece of information that's going to tell you whether you're going too fast or too slow, probably too fast, on a length by length basis. They're about 25 quid. It's the best money you can spend for a bit of tech gadget. It's like a metronome that goes under your swim hat and it just beeps at you. Dead easy to program. So use those to raise your awareness of pace. And the last thing I would say is just make sure that every session has a purpose. If it's CSS pace, do it at CSS pace. If it's endurance pace, don't be tempted to swim it just a bit faster. Set it at that 10 seconds slower than CSS pace. Pick the pace and sit to it. Okay? So hopefully that then gives people an idea of why we're going to pick different intensities, why there's an intelligence behind it, because each of those 3 zones has got a specific purpose. And if you're not swimming in one of those 3 zones, then you've got to ask yourself, what is it that you're doing right now? What's the purpose to it? And can you be more intelligent with your time? Okay?
I like it.
Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, and if people are interested in learning a bit more about how the time training system can help them improve, specifically for 70.3 and Ironman, we've got a free webinar that you can watch. There's a link to it in the show notes. Now, Team Oxygen Addict is closed right now. It's going to be closed until January. So as a thank you for watching the webinar, we're giving away a free 4-week training plan. It's going to be specific for this time of year. So if you're listening now as we release it, you'll get a winter training plan. If you're listening to this as a replay later in the year, there'll be a 4-week training plan specific to the time of year that it is. And it just gives you a chance to come in and try all of these theories and all of these sessions that I'm talking about, but without having to do any thinking. It's all done for you. So you click a link, you get the training plan in TrainingPeaks, and it's there to trial for you for 4 weeks to see if the system works for you.
And here's my top tip: crack on with it really, really soon, because if you leave it for like another week, it'll be Christmas, and then you're not going to be able to find a pool which is open for about a week.
That is very true. Yes,
so true.
We're getting there, aren't we?
So true. Yeah, there you go.
All right, well, that pretty much brings us to the end of today's episode, doesn't it, Hells?
I think it does. I'm going to be going to the sold out Dare to Try question and answer evening with Louise Minchin on Thursday at Alf Jones Cycles near Wrexham. So hopefully I'm going to sell a few more copies of Fueled by Cake there. We're down to, we've opened the second box of 4, Rob. So I now have 3 left.
So we're nearly at the penultimate box. We can get a box update, can't we? Week by week.
We can get. We're at the box update.
We've got 3 boxes of Fueled by Cakes to go. So come on, everyone. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, what do I need for a Christmas present for somebody in my life who's hard to buy for? Good old Auntie Beryl. She's always hard to buy for, but she's got loads of scars, Helen. She doesn't need another one. She needs a baking book, because then she can bake cakes for you and you can eat them.
Exactly.
Everyone's
a winner. So it's all for charity. It's for Melanoma UK, Young Epilepsy and East Cheshire Hospice. I'm trying to raise £15,000. We're getting there. We are really, really getting there. Recipes from Rachel Joyce and Chrissy Wellington and Vicky Holland and Laura Siddle and Emma Pooley and this guy called Rob Wilby. So head to fueledbycake.com and buy your copies online. That'd be amazing.
It's not about the recipes though, Hels. It's about the cakes, isn't it? It's about my nan's Dayton walnut cake. It's about Heather Fell's raw energy balls. This is delicious, edible deliciousness you can carry in your pockets as you go through the cycling and running year. I'd advise against taking it to actually swim and eat in the water, but it's perfect for in your bag after swimming. So Get some cake inside you, guilt-free.
Cake's always guilt-free, Rob. I'm telling you, just everything in moderation.
Too right.
If you live on a diet of cake, someone emailed me. Someone emailed me questioning why on earth I've done it.
Right.
And I think this person genuinely thought I lived off cake.
Are you getting hate mail?
As in,
you're getting cake
it
mail?
was a hate. It was a cake hate mail. Yeah.
That's not good.
Very much questioning the worthiness of it and the charities that I was raising money for.
Do you know what? I think if they got the book and they saw the sort of the various delicious things that they can make in there.
Correct.
Snacks for eating while you're riding that you've produced yourself, you're in charge of. You may as well make your own food rather than buy something in a packet. I think that person would be eating their words as well as their cake.
I was thinking I should send her some chocolate brownie in the post, maybe with a little PS, live a little, you know.
There you go. Love it. All right then. So that brings us to the end of today's show. Let's give a quick old shout out to the sponsors, Precision Hydration. Remember, you can use the code Oxygenaddict for $9.99 worth of free pH. And if you're super quick, you can use the code Oxygen Friday. That's good till midnight, Cyber Monday, the 26th of November, for 20% off everything on precisionhydration.com. You can also check out our webinar through the links in the show notes if you want to learn more about the time training system for triathlon success. And you can always get one of Hel's cake books at fueledbycake.com. So listen, until next week, everyone, thanks very much for listening. I'm Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. Have a great, safe training and racing week, everyone, and we'll speak to you all again soon. Cheers now. See ya.